Picture this. You're walking the floor of the 2026 Brussels Motor Show.
Oh, yeah, the lighting is always so dramatic at those things.
Right. Dramatic lighting. The legacy European automakers have their massive, polished pavilions. And there's this underlying feeling that everyone kind of knows their place in the established hierarchy.
Absolutely.
You've got your German luxury on one side, your Italian performance over there, and your practical everyday hatchbacks right in the center. But then you turn a corner, and sitting right there is this massive disruptor.
And it is sending shockwaves through that entire establishment right now.
Completely. It's this sleek, 5-meter-long fastback called the P7 Plus Q'd, built by a Chinese mobility company named XPeng. And, well, here's the kicker. They aren't just calling it a new EV.
Right, they're being much more aggressive than that.
Yeah, they are boldly billing it as the world's first AI-defined vehicle.
Which is, an incredibly aggressive flag to plant right in the backyard of the world's oldest, most established automakers.
It really.
It's the kind of statement that forces the industry to stop and just recalibrate. And we know they are recalibrating because of the materials we're looking at today.
Right, our sources for this deep dive.
Exactly. We have a stack of official global and European launch press releases from XPeng. But the real gem in our sources today is this sharp, borderline geopolitical autopsy of the market from an Italian auto analysis firm.
Yeah, that piece is fantastic.
It really is. It describes this launch in vivid detail, breaking down not just the car itself, but the existential threat it poses to traditional car building.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the goal of this deep dive isn't just to, read you a spec sheet.
No, nobody wants that.
Right. We want to figure out if this AI-defined label is just clever marketing fluff, or if the P7 Plus actually represents a fundamental shift in how you drive, how you interact with, and even how you own a car in 2026.
And that Italian article we're pulling from is fascinating because it reads less like a standard car review and more like a tech industry postmortem.
Yeah, totally. But before we get into the silicon and the steel, we really need to talk about the badge on the hood.
XPeng.
Yeah, XPeng might not be a household name for everyone in Europe just yet, but the legacy players are officially spooked.
Well, they absolutely are. And to understand why the P7 Plus matters, you have to understand the philosophy of the company building it. XPeng was founded back in 2014, and from day one, they just haven't viewed themselves as a traditional automaker.
Right, they call themselves something else.
Yeah, they officially refer to themselves as an AI company that just happens to build mobility hardware.
Which is wild.
It is. They're approaching the car from a tech-first, software-first perspective. And there is a detail in our sources that perfectly illustrates the gravity of this shift.
Oh, the Volkswagen thing?
Yes. Volkswagen, the absolute titan of European auto manufacturing, recently purchased a 5% stake in XPeng.
That detail honestly stopped me in my tracks when I was reading the notes. We are talking about Volkswagen here.
The giant.
Yeah, the company that practically defined modern vehicle platforms. For them to invest in a Chinese startup specifically to gain access to their electrical and software architecture, it feels like a total reversal of the usual dynamic.
It really does.
Is XPeng's strategy essentially a student becoming the master situation here? The German giant is looking to the 12-year-old tech company to learn how to build a modern car brain.
It is a massive paradigm shift. Volkswagen basically recognized that trying to build a vertically integrated software ecosystem from scratch was just burning through capital and time.
Right, reinventing the wheel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
XPeng already has it functioning flawlessly in the real world.
Yeah.
And the delivery numbers, well, they back up the tech.
What were the numbers looking like?
In 2025, XPeng delivered over 429,000 vehicles globally. That is more than double their volume from the previous year.
Wow, over double.
Yeah, but the crucial metric for our discussion today is Europe. In a market where EV sales have faced some serious headwinds lately, XPeng's European sales jumped 126%.
That's crazy.
Up to roughly 22,700 units.
That is serious momentum. But getting cars into Europe from China has become a geopolitical minefield recently.
Oh, look.
You have import challenges, you have heavy tariff conversations dominating the news cycle right now. So how are they getting around that? Because if you are just shipping cars on boats, your margins evaporate the second they hit the port.
The choice they made here is highly strategic. The sources highlight that pilot production of the P7 Plus has already been completed at the Magna Steyr plant in Graz, Austria.
Graz! Wait, so they are building it right in the heart of Europe.
Yes, they are.
That's the same legendary contract manufacturer that builds the Mercedes G-Wagon and the Toyota Supra, right?
The very same. So by utilizing Magna Steyr, XPens instantly acquires world-class European build quality. And more importantly, they localize their footprint.
Ah, bypassing the tariffs?
Exactly. The P7 Plus is now their third model to be produced and assembled on European soil. They are completely bypassing those import tariff walls. With delivery set to start in April 2026 across 25 different European markets, they are establishing deep, permanent roots.
But building a sleek car in Austria doesn't justify a European giant like VW handing over millions for your architecture. The secret sauce isn't the metal, it's the silicon.
Right.
The sources keep pointing back to the P7 Plus's brain.
Yeah, the intelligence of this vehicle revolves entirely around their proprietary Turing AI chip. This single piece of hardware boasts 750 TOPS.
Okay, so 750 tera operations per second.
Exactly.
We see automakers throwing the word tera around a lot to sound impressive, but let's translate that for the listener. So what does this all mean? What does that immense mathematical headroom actually do for the person behind the wheel that, say, a standard advanced cruise control system can't?
Well, what's fascinating here is how they are applying that raw computing power to solve the hardest problem in autonomous driving, which is vision. Most automakers pursuing level 3 or level 4 autonomy rely heavily on LiDAR. Those are the expensive, spinning laser arrays you see on the roofs of test vehicles.
Right, the bulky sensors.
Yeah. LiDAR is great because it physically maps the 3D world around the car, but it is incredibly expensive, and honestly, it's difficult to integrate smoothly into a car's design.
Makes the car look like a taxi from the future.
Exactly. XPeng has completely ditched LiDAR for the P7 Plus 2. They are utilizing what they call the AI Hawkeye Visual Solution, which is a pure vision setup.
Pure vision, meaning it only uses cameras to see the world.
Only cameras.
I know Tesla has championed that philosophy for years, but it is notoriously difficult to pull off. It's one thing for a laser to measure the distance to a concrete barrier, right?
Right.
It's entirely different for a 2D camera to look at pixels and calculate how fast that barrier is approaching in real time.
And that is exactly why the 750 TOPS chip is mandatory. The Hawkeye system relies on two 8-megapixel cameras, supported by millimeter wave and ultrasonic radars.
So it's processing a massive amount of data.
Huge amounts.
Right.
It has to ingest billions of pixels per second and infer 3D depth, trajectory, and intent all locally on the car's computer without relying on a cell signal.
Because if you lose connection, you don't want the car to go blind.
Exactly. Because they have that immense processing headroom, the AI doesn't just react to obstacles, it learns from them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The sources note their latest XOS 5.4 software platform has improved lane change success by 53% and enhanced detour handling by an astonishing 155%.
Wait, I want to pause on that detour handling stat because here's where it gets really interesting.
Go for it.
When you or I drive and we see an unexpected construction cone slightly protruding into our lane, we intuitively know to drift slightly to the left without fully leaving the lane.
Right. You just nudge over.
Exactly. Older systems would just panic and hit the brakes because an object violated the digital barrier. You're saying this system understands the context of the detour.
It understands context, and it shares that context. Think of it like fleet learning.
Okay.
So if a few hundred P7 Plus drivers navigate a newly constructed, highly confusing roundabout in Rome today, the system processes those successful human interventions.
It learns from the humans driving it.
Yes. And by next week's over-the-air update, every single P7 Plus in Europe suddenly knows exactly how to navigate that specific Roman roundabout perfectly.
That is wild. And this intelligence isn't just pointed out the windshield, it's pointed at the driver too, right?
Oh, heavily.
The Italian analysis spends a lot of time on the interior experience.
Yeah, the smart cockpit runs on its own dedicated intelligence, utilizing an XGPT large language model powered by a Qualcomm 8295P chip.
So it's not just a basic voice assistant.
No, this isn't just a voice assistant that turns on the radio. It acts as a predictive environmental controller.
What does that mean in practice?
It learns your specific daily habits, your temperature preferences based on the weather outside, how you position your seat when you are tired versus when you are alert.
That's almost kind of creepy, but very cool.
It is. Out of the box, the P7 Plus delivers Level 2++ autonomy, which handles highly complex highway and city navigation with driver supervision.
Mm-hmm.
But the critical point the sources make is that the Turing chip is already powerful enough for Level 4.
Fully autonomous, hands-off driving.
Exactly. The hardware is future-proofed. It's just waiting for the regulatory green light and an OTA software patch.
Okay, so it has a genius-level, future-proofed brain, But a Genius Brain requires massive amounts of electrical power, especially when it's constantly crunching 750 tera operations.
It does.
How on earth is the battery supporting the supercomputer, plus the motors, plus the interior climate, without dying after 100
Well,
kilometers?
the physical architecture is just as revolutionary as the code. The P7 Plus sits on an 800-volt lithium iron phosphate, or LFP, 5C battery platform.
Okay.
You can configure it with either a 61.7 kilowatt-hour or a 74.9 kilowatt-hour pack, and their energy management is just stunning.
What kind of efficiency are we talking about?
They're achieving a real-world efficiency of 10 kilometers per kilowatt-hour.
Wow.
Yeah, that translates to a maximum WLTP range of 530 kilometers on a surprisingly small battery pack.
Let's break down those battery acronyms real quick because LFP and 5C are vital here.
Sure.
Traditionally, LFP batteries are favored because they are cheaper to make. They don't use controversial minerals like cobalt, and they are incredibly safe, like they practically don't catch fire.
Right, very stable chemistry.
But the trade-off has always been that they are dense, heavy, and pretty slow to charge. So how are they getting away with using LFP in a high-performance, tech-heavy fastback?
They basically solved the LFP charging bottleneck by utilizing that 800-volt architecture combined with a 5C charge rating.
Okay.
5C. The 5C means the battery can accept charge at 5 times its total capacity. To put that in human terms, it can fast charge from 10% to 80% in 12 minutes.
12 minutes. Wait, really? That fundamentally rewrites the mental math of an EV road trip. I mean, that is literally the time it takes to pull into a highway rest stop, order a latte, use the restroom, and walk back out.
Yep.
You aren't pacing around a parking lot waiting for your car anymore. Your car is waiting for you. But pushing 800 volts into a battery that fast generates a terrifying amount of thermal energy.
Oh, massive amounts of heat.
How are they packaging this so it doesn't melt?
That leads to perhaps the most impressive physical engineering feat on the vehicle. To manage that heat and maximize space, XPeng utilized cell-to-body technology to create the world's thinnest battery pack.
How thin are we talking?
It is just 109 millimeters thick.
109 millimeters. That is barely over 4 inches.
It's crazy, right?
If you stand your smartphone on its edge, that is roughly the thickness of the entire energy floor of this vehicle.
And when you shrink the battery floor to 4 inches, you unlock massive interior volume without having to build a tall, non-aerodynamic SUV.
Oh, that makes sense.
The P7 Plus is a sleek fastback with a 3-meter wheelbase. Because the floor is so thin, the cabin space is vast. The luggage capacity starts at 573 liters, but when you fold the rear seats flat, it expands to 1,931 liters.
So it effectively hides the cargo volume of a large family station wagon inside the aerodynamic profile of a sports coupe.
Exactly.
But I gotta ask, taking away the thick, heavy battery tray removes a lot of the structural rigidity of the car floor. If I get T-boned in an intersection, I don't want a 4-inch floor crumpling on me.
Which is why the sources specifically detail the chassis engineering. To compensate for the thin battery, XPeng built the surrounding safety cage using 2,000 megapascal ultra-high-strength steel.
2,000 megapascal.
Yeah, they essentially had to utilize advanced stamping techniques just to bend steel that strong, creating a completely rigid cocoon around the passengers. And inside that cocoon, they leaned heavily into luxury.
Yeah, reading the interior specs, it sounds less like a tech bro spaceship and more like an executive lounge.
It really does. They feature a microfiber velour headliner with a cashmere-like texture. Right. The seats are wrapped in perforated Napa leather, coming standard with heating, ventilation, and massage functions across the board.
Of course.
But if we look closely at the engineering notes, the standout feature is the acoustic isolation.
Because EVs are already quiet.
True, but EVs don't have a combustion engine to mask the sound of the wind or the tires slapping the pavement. So XPeng engineered 62 targeted noise reduction points throughout the chassis and cabin. They have masked a highly efficient, high-voltage computational machine behind a wall of pure silence.
So to recap the hardware real quick,
Go.
we have a super intelligent pure vision EV that charges in 12 minutes, has the cargo space of an estate car, and is wrapped in cashmere and silent 2,000 megapascal steel.
That's the summary, yeah.
But specs are just numbers until you put a price tag on the windshield. Because when a listener walks into a dealership, they aren't just buying 750 TOPS, they are managing a household budget.
Oh, absolutely.
How does this compare to what is sitting in European showrooms right now?
This is where XPeng turns from a technological curiosity into a massive market threat. In launch markets like Spain, Portugal, and Italy, the starting price for the P7 Plus is set at roughly 43,990 euro.
Okay, around 44 grand.
Yeah. The Italian analysis we are referencing specifically quotes 46,170 euro for their fully loaded local market version. And that Italian piece does a brilliant job of contextualizing this by directly comparing the P7 Plus to two absolute heavyweights in that exact price bracket.
Who are the targets?
The Tesla Model Y, which hovers around 41,000 euro,
Yeah.
and the Mercedes GLA, which sits around 46,500.
A Mercedes, a Tesla, and an XPeng all fighting within a few thousand euros of each other. That is a heavyweight bout.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the Italian analysts argue that the Mercedes GLA comparison is mostly symbolic right now.
Why is that?
The current GLA at that price point is predominantly a plug-in hybrid. It is an older combustion platform trying to adapt to an electric world rather than a dedicated ground-up EV.
I gotcha.
The true bloody battle for market share is squarely between the P7 Plus and the Tesla Model Y.
The reigning champion, the best-selling car in the world recently. Tesla obviously brings massive structural advantages. They have the ubiquitous supercharger network across Europe, and their software ecosystem is mature, battle-tested, and trusted by millions.
Unquestionably.
But the Model Y is built on an older 400-volt electrical architecture.
And that is the physical bottleneck Tesla cannot fix with a simple software update. A 400-volt system physically limits how fast electrons can flow into the battery pack before the charging cables and the cells get dangerously hot.
Right.
Tesla's software is brilliant, but it is trapped in aging hardware. The P7 Plus's 800-volt architecture allows it to ingest power dramatically faster.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If I'm a consumer looking at these two cars side by side, XPeng is walking into Europe offering a vehicle that is physically larger than a Model Y, boasts 800-volt next-generation charging, features a 750 TOPS AI brain that learns from the fleet, offers executive luxury materials, and they're pricing it right under the nose of the European luxury mainstays. They aren't asking you to compromise on tech to save money. They are weaponizing technology to offer a better value proposition.
And that aggressive value proposition leads to the most profound observation in the Italian market analysis.
Brushes.
The analysts argue that the technology inside the P7 Plus, combined with this price point, forces a fundamental shift in the psychology of buying a car. They claim the P7 Plus effectively turns the vehicle into a smartphone.
The smartphone car. I read that section, and it's a catchy headline, but I think we need to push back and really think critically about what that means for the listener.
Go on.
Well, the premise is that for a century, a car was purely a mechanical asset. Its value peaked the second you drove it off the dealership lot.
Arguably.
And from that moment on, the engine wore down, the transmission degraded, and the value plummeted. But with a software-defined vehicle like the P7 Plus S, the automaker promises that the car will literally get smarter and more capable over time via over-the-air updates. The metal and the leather are just the vessel. The true value is the software ecosystem running it.
That's the pitch, yes.
And here is my major issue with that philosophy. If my car is literally a giant smartphone on wheels, what happens when it hits the end of its tech life cycle? We all know the frustration of owning a 4-year-old smartphone. The new operating system rolls out, the battery drains in half a day, the apps lag, and eventually the manufacturer stops supporting it, forcing you to throw it away and buy a new one.
Built-in obsolescence.
Exactly. But a car is not an 800-euro pocket device. It is a 45,000 euro depreciating asset. If an OTA update goes wrong on my phone, I can't check my email. If a software patch introduces a bug into a car's Pure Vision Hawkeye system while I'm traveling at 120 kilometers an hour, I am in acute physical danger.
Right.
And beyond the safety, there is the data question. The XGPT system is learning my daily routes, my habits, my biometric preferences. Who holds the keys to that server?
This raises an incredibly important question, and it is the exact friction point the Italian analysis warns about. We are entering an era of tethered ownership.
Tethered ownership?
Yes. When you purchase an analog car, you own an independent piece of machinery. When you purchase an AI-defined vehicle like the P7 Plus said, you are buying access to a technology platform.
You're tied to them.
You are tethered to XPeng servers for the life of that vehicle. You have to trust that they will maintain the code, secure your biometric data against breaches, and guarantee that a chip update 5 years down the line won't turn your premium fastback into an obsolete, laggy brick.
It's a huge leap of faith.
It is. The relationship between the driver and the automaker is no longer a one-time transaction. It is a permanent, high-stakes digital marriage.
Man, it's thrilling engineering, but it really requires us to completely rewire our definition of consumer trust. It is a lot to process.
It definitely is.
Listen, as we wrap up today's deep dive into the shifting sands of the automotive world, we want to take a second to speak directly to you. Thank you for taking the time to sit with us, to engage with this dense material, and to explore these massive technological leaps alongside us today. We know your time is incredibly valuable, and getting to unpack the how and the why behind the headlines with you is exactly why we do this. Also, depending on when this hits your feed, we want to wish you and your loved ones a very happy Easter.
Here, here. And before we let you go, there is one final mind-bending piece of data from the sources that we deliberately saved for the end.
Oh, right, the Easter egg.
Exactly. We just spent this entire deep dive marveling at the P7 Plus Horror, analyzing how its 750 TOPS Turing chip is powerful enough to disrupt the European market.
Yeah.
But while European regulators are just now wrapping their heads around this tech, the sources note that XPeng isn't resting on its laurels. They have already announced the launch of 3 fully autonomous robotaxi models in China, scheduled to hit the roads this very year in 2026.
Wait, fully autonomous robotaxis deploying commercially this year?
Yes. And here is the true kicker. Those robotaxis aren't running on the 750 TOPS chip.
What are they running on?
They are equipped with next-generation silicon capable of 3,000 TOPS.
3,000. Wait, that is 4 times the raw mathematical brainpower of the P7. Plus, we just spent the last 18 minutes dissecting as a revolutionary breakthrough.
Precisely. It is an exponential leap in processing power, already validated, and moving toward commercial deployment while the rest of the industry is still trying to figure out Level 3 highway assist.
4 times the intelligence. That is just staggering. So, to bring this entire conversation full circle, when you were walking the floor of that Brussels Motor Show, looking at the aggressive stance of the P7 Plus under the auto show lights, just remember this. You aren't looking at XPeng's final form.
Not even close.
The P7 Plus is merely their polite, consumer-friendly introduction to Europe. The true AI driving revolution, the one with computational power that makes today's cutting edge look quaint, is already built. It's sitting on a server rack right now, just waiting for the regulatory green light. The only question left to mull over is, well, when that 3,000 TOPS intelligence finally arrives in your driveway, are you going to be ready to hand over the wheel?